Commander Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the ESS Horizon, humanity's most advanced diplomatic vessel, watching the swirling purple atmosphere of Meridius Prime fill the view screen. After 2 centuries of searching the stars, humanity had finally made first contact with an advanced civilization. The Meridian Empire had reached out 3 months ago, offering technology and alliance. Now, standing on the precipice of history, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Final approach vector locked, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from the navigation console. Meridian Control has granted us landing clearance. Sarah nodded, adjusting the collar of her dress uniform. Status of our escort ships. The Defiant and Challenger are maintaining high orbit as requested, Security Chief Williams answered, his weathered face reflecting the same unease Sarah felt. Though I still think that we should have brought the whole fleet, Sarah finished. I know, Marcus, but we have to show trust to earn trust. The Meridians had been specific in their instructions. 1 ship, minimal crew, no weapons. Standard diplomatic procedure, they'd said. Earth's governments had jumped at the chance, eager to join the galactic community. Sarah understood their enthusiasm. She'd seen the preliminary data on Meridian technology. Medical advances that could end disease, clean energy that could reverse climate change, faster-than-light drives that could open the galaxy. The ship descended through layers of atmosphere, breaking through clouds to reveal a sprawling metropolis of crystalline spires and floating platforms. Streams of flying vehicles moved in perfect, orderly lines between the buildings. It was beautiful, advanced, and utterly alien. Energy readings are fluctuating, Science Officer Dr. Emily Wong reported, frowning at her instruments. There's some kind of field. The ship lurched violently. Warning klaxons blared. Multiple system failures. Rodriguez shouted, "We're losing power." Sarah's fingers flew across the command console. Emergency protocols. Get us. The bridge went dark. When the emergency lights flickered on seconds later, Sarah's blood ran cold. The view screen showed they were no longer descending toward the city, but being pulled into a massive hangar bay in what appeared to be an orbital facility. They've trapped us in some kind of tractor beam, Wong reported grimly. All systems except life support are dead. Before Sarah could respond, a new voice filled the bridge, smooth, cultured, and utterly inhuman. Commander Chen, welcome to the Meridian Empire. Please do not resist. It will only make the processing more uncomfortable. Sarah's mind raced. Processing? This is a diplomatic mission under international protection. Any hostile action will be met with what, Commander? The voice seemed amused. Your pitiful escort vessels have already been disabled. Earth knows nothing of your location. You are, as your species so quaintly puts it, off the grid. The hangar bay doors closed beneath them with finality. Sarah watched in horror as dozens of armed figures in powered armor began approaching the ship. Your species has something we find quite valuable, Commander. Adaptability, resilience, such useful traits in our enhancement programs. The ability to survive and even thrive under extreme conditions. It makes humans particularly valuable specimens. Williams drew his ceremonial sidearm, the only weapon they'd been allowed to bring. Orders, Commander. Sarah's jaw tightened. They'd walked right into this trap, handed the Meridians everything they needed to know about Earth's defenses, population centers, technological capabilities. But they'd also made a crucial mistake. They'd assumed humans would break easily. Destroy the data cores, she ordered. Initiate Protocol 0. They want to learn about human resilience. She picked up a piece of broken equipment, testing its weight. Let's give them a lesson they won't forget. The next 30 minutes were chaos. The crew fought with everything they had, improvised weapons, sealed bulkheads, even hand-to-hand combat. But against powered armor and advanced weaponry, the outcome was inevitable. What mattered was that they'd succeeded in their real mission. Every scrap of data about Earth had been destroyed. As neural restraints locked around her neck and wrists, Sarah caught the eye of the Meridian commander, a tall figure with iridescent scales and multiple pairs of eyes. "You've made a serious mistake," she said quietly. Oh, the alien seemed amused. "And what mistake would that be?" "You think you're getting slaves, but what you're really getting is a revolution." The Meridian laughed. "Brave words, Commander. But you'll learn. Everyone learns eventually. Take them to processing. Standard enhancement protocols for the males. The females," he looked Sarah up and down with cold calculation. "The breeding program needs new genetic stock." As they were led away, Sarah memorized every detail of the facility, every face of her crew. They hadn't come prepared for a war, but humans were good at improvising. And if the Meridians thought they could break humanity's spirit, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. In the processing center, Sarah watched her crew being separated, catalogued like cattle. But she saw something else too. Other aliens, clearly prisoners, watching the humans with a mixture of pity and curiosity. Some wore collars similar to the neural restraints now around her neck. Others showed signs of cybernetic enhancements. "Commander," Williams managed to whisper before they were separated, "what's the play?" Sarah's eyes narrowed as she spotted something interesting, the way some of the prisoner trustees moved, the subtle signs of an underground organization. "We do what humans do best, Marcus. We adapt. We survive. And then we show the Meridian Empire why they should have left Earth alone." The processing chamber doors opened with a hiss of hydraulics. As Sarah was led inside, she began counting steps, memorizing layouts, noting guard rotations. The Meridians had centuries of experience breaking slaves, but they'd never tried to break humans before. And Sarah Chen had no intention of being the first to break. In the darkness of her holding cell that night, Sarah began planning. The Meridians had built their empire on slavery and subjugation, using advanced technology to control their prisoners. But technology could be subverted, control could be broken, and if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was turning weakness into strength. The revolution wouldn't start with weapons or armies. It would start here in these cells with whispered words and small acts of defiance. It would start with hope. And hope, Sarah knew, was something no neural collar could contain. 3 months into her captivity, Sarah Chen stood in the arena's holding pen, listening to the roar of the crowd above. The Meridian's enhancement protocols had left her stronger, faster, her body laced with biotechnology she was only beginning to understand. But they hadn't broken her. If anything, they'd made her more dangerous. "Today's match is death qualified," the arena master announced through her neural collars interface. "Victory means elevation to trustee status. Failure means, well," his laugh crackled through the implant, "try to make it entertaining." Sarah flexed her enhanced muscles, feeling the microscopic machines in her bloodstream responding to her adrenaline. The arena had been an unexpected opportunity. While most human females were sent to the breeding programs, Sarah's aggressive tendencies had marked her for gladiatorial combat instead. Then a stake. The lift platform began to rise, carrying her into the massive arena. 50,000 Meridian spectators filled the stands, their iridescent scales shimmering in the artificial sunlight. In the luxury boxes, high-ranking nobles watched through sensory enhancement fields that let them experience every moment of violence in intimate detail. Her opponent today was a Kraxan warrior, 3 meters of armored exoskeleton and razor-sharp claws. The species was known for its brutality and had been one of the Meridian Empire's most successful military acquisitions. This one had killed 12 other gladiators in the past week alone. "Begin." The command rang through the neural collars, and the Kraxan charged. Sarah had spent her first months studying every opponent, learning their weaknesses. Kraxan were fast, strong, and nearly invulnerable from the front, but their enhanced aggression made them predictable. She waited until the last possible moment before diving, rolling under the creature's slashing claws. As it passed, she struck precisely at the joint where thorax met abdomen, the one spot where their nervous system was exposed. The Kraxan stumbled, its movements becoming erratic. The crowd roared as Sarah pressed her advantage, using her smaller size and enhanced speed to stay inside the creature's reach. Each strike targeted a vital point, each movement calculated to wear down her larger opponent. In the VIP box, Kerfol, youngest son of the Imperial House, leaned forward with interest. Unlike most Meridians, his scales were a deep cobalt blue, marking him as part of the ruling bloodline. "Fascinating," he murmured. "She's not just fighting, she's analyzing." His companion, General Vex, nodded. "The humans are proving more adaptable than expected. Their enhancement acceptance rate is unprecedented, perhaps too unprecedented." Kerfol watched as Sarah finally brought down the Kraxan with a devastating series of strikes to its neural clusters. The crowd erupted in cheers as the massive creature collapsed. "Have you noticed, General, how they work together? Even in the mines, even under neural suppression." A concern we're addressing, Vex replied stiffly. "The newer collar models have stronger isolation protocols." But Kerfol wasn't listening. He was watching Sarah Chen help a fallen opponent stand, an unprecedented act in arena combat. The Kraxan, instead of lashing out, allowed her assistance. More interesting still was the quick exchange of glances between them, almost imperceptible unless you knew what to look for. "Perhaps," Kerfol said softly, "we should be less concerned with suppressing their cooperation and more concerned with why they're so good at it." In the arena's medical bay, Sarah lay still as heaving the knights repaired her minor injuries. Her enhanced hearing picked up the approaching footsteps long before the door opened. "Impressive performance," Kerfol said, entering alone. "Another breach of protocol, especially the part where you turned my father's prized arena into a recruitment center." Sarah kept her face neutral, but her pulse quickened. "I don't know what you mean, Your Highness." "No." Kerfol's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of amusement. "So you haven't been deliberately throwing matches just enough to stay in the middle ranks, where you can make contact with the most prisoners? Haven't been using the arena's medical bay to pass messages? Haven't been building a network that spans half the slave facilities in this sector?" Sarah sat up slowly, studying the young noble. Something in his voice, "You're not here to stop us." "On the contrary." Kerfol moved closer, speaking softly. "I'm here to help. The Empire is rotting from within, Commander Chen. It's built on suffering and control, maintained by fear and technology. But you humans, you've shown there's another way. Why should I trust you?" Kerfol's outer membrane shifted, revealing a pattern of scars. "Because like you, I've seen the Empire's true face. And like you, I believe it's time for a change." Sarah considered the risks. A trap, possibly, but her enhanced senses detected no deception in his biosignatures, and they needed allies with access to higher levels of the Empire. "The neural collars," she said. "We need to know how to disable them." "Better." Kerfol extracted a tiny crystal from his robes. "I can show you how to reprogram them. How to turn the Empire's greatest control tool into its greatest vulnerability." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "When I said we'd start a revolution, I didn't expect a member of the Imperial family to volunteer." "The humans have a saying I've become quite fond of," Kerfol replied. "The enemy of my enemy is my friend," Sarah finished. "All right, Your Highness. Let's talk about bringing down an empire." Over the next weeks, the revolution took shape in whispered conversations and coded messages. Sarah's arena victories continued to provide cover for their growing network. The Kraxan she'd fought, Piextar, became one of their most valuable allies, using his status as an arena champion to move freely between facilities. But it was the discovery about the neural collars that changed everything. They weren't just control devices, they were networked computers gathering data on their wearers. Data that could be accessed, modified, and repurposed. The Empire built its power on control through technology, Kerfol explained during one secret meeting. but they never considered what would happen if that technology was turned against them. Sarah looked at the gathered representatives of their resistance, humans, Kraxan, and half a dozen other enslaved species. Each brought unique strengths, unique perspectives. The Empire had tried to break them, to pit them against each other. Instead, they created the ultimate fighting force. "We'll need to move carefully," she said. "The moment they realize what we're doing with the collars, they'll try to shut down the entire network." "Let them try," Gextar rumbled. "My people are ready. We've been ready for centuries." Sarah nodded. "Then let's begin. Kfol, we'll need access to the central control facility. Gextar, get word to the mining colonies. The rest of you, prepare your people. When this starts, it'll happen fast." As the meeting dispersed, Kfol lingered. "You know my father will execute me for this if we fail." "Then we won't fail," Sarah said simply. "Your people made one fundamental mistake, Kfol. You saw our adaptability as a weakness to exploit, but adaptation isn't just about surviving." She touched the neural collar that would soon become their greatest weapon. "It's about learning to thrive in any circumstance, and humans, we're very good at teaching others how to thrive." The revolution was no longer just about freeing slaves. It was about showing the galaxy a better way. And it would begin, fittingly enough, in the very arena where the Empire displayed its power. Sarah returned to her cell that night, feeling the weight of what was to come. Tomorrow would be her biggest fight yet, a championship match against 3 opponents simultaneously. The Empire would be watching. And that was exactly what they needed. The revolution wouldn't start with a whisper after all. It would start with a roar. The championship match wasn't just a fight, it was a message. As Sarah faced her 3 opponents in the arena, every enslaved species in the Empire watched through their neural collar's mandatory broadcast function. What they didn't know was that hidden in the transmission was a code, prepared by Kfol, that would change everything. "Champions of the Meridian Empire," the arena master's voice boomed. "Fight." A Vratak assassin, a Hydraxian warmaster, and another Kraxan warrior, the Empire's deadliest gladiators, they moved with practiced coordination, trying to surround her. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Perfect. The fight that followed would be talked about for generations. Sarah moved like water, using her enhanced abilities in ways the Meridians had never anticipated. Each strike, each dodge was precisely calculated to keep all 3 opponents in motion, burning energy, growing frustrated. In the VIP box, General Vex leaned forward. "Something's wrong. Her enhancement readings are off the scale." Kfol watched calmly. "Fascinating, isn't it? How humans don't just adapt to the enhancements, they improve them." Below, Sarah spun away from the Vratak's poison blades, using the Kraxan's momentum to crush him into the Hydraxian. The neural collar hummed against her neck, transmitting every moment to the watching Empire. And with each transmission, the hidden code spread. "The latest research is remarkable," Kfol continued, his voice carefully neutral. "Did you know humans are the only species whose neural patterns actually strengthen under suppression? The more you try to control them, the more resistant they become." Vex finished, his scales darkening with concern. "By the Empire, what have we done?" The fight reached its climax. Sarah stood in the center of the arena, her opponents down but alive. The crowd roared, but she wasn't listening to them. She was counting down. 3, 2, 1. Across the Empire, neural collars flickered. For just a moment, the suppression field weakened. In that instant, every slave felt it, a breath of freedom, a taste of hope. And with that taste came knowledge, downloaded directly into their enhanced minds through the compromised network. Knowledge of how to fight back. Alarms began blaring throughout the arena complex. General Vex shot to his feet. What's happening? Kfol's outer membrane rippled with satisfaction. Evolution general, natural selection, survival of the fittest. Humans taught us that. The neural network crashed. Every color in the Empire went dark for exactly 30 seconds, long enough for the revolution to begin. In the minds of Meridius IV, Gextar led his fellow Kraxan in overwhelming their guards. On the factory worlds, Hydraxian workers turned assembly lines into armories. In orbital shipyards, enslaved engineers seized control of half-built warships. And in the arena, Sarah Chen faced down 100 elite guards with nothing but her enhanced abilities and an unbreakable will. You know what your biggest mistake was? She called out to the panicking Meridian nobles. You gave us these enhancements thinking they'd make us better slaves. Instead, they made us better fighters. The battle that followed was brief but decisive. With the neural collars reprogrammed, the slaves' enhanced abilities were fully under their own control for the first time. Centuries of oppression had created an army of super soldiers. All they'd needed was a chance to break free. Kothal watched from his private chamber as reports flooded in from across the Empire. Slave revolts on 17 worlds, shipyards and factories seized, communication networks compromised, and at the heart of it all, a species that should have broken under the Empire's boot had instead learned to thrive. My father will be furious, he mused, examining a tactical display. The entire Imperial Guard is mobilizing. Good, Sarah replied, entering the chamber with her former opponents turned allies behind her. Let them come. Every soldier they send is another potential ally. You think they'll turn? I think once they see what's really happening, many will. Your Empire's strength was built on fear and dominance, but we're offering something stronger. She gestured to the diverse group of former gladiators around her. Unity, cooperation, purpose. The tactical display showed more uprising spreading. The Empire's response was massive but fragmented, their commanders unsure which systems they could trust. Centuries of relying on neural control had left them vulnerable to precisely this kind of insurgency. We've taken the orbital shipyards, Gextar reported. The Empire's newest dreadnought is under our control. Sarah nodded, and the communication hub. Ours, the Vretak assassin confirmed. We're broadcasting the truth about the Empire to every world, every station, every ship, including proof of what they really do in their enhancement facilities. But victory wouldn't come easily. Even as they spoke, Imperial warships were converging on rebel-held positions. The Empire still commanded vast resources and armies of loyal troops. They would respond with overwhelming force, trying to crush the uprising before it could spread further. They'll target the leadership first, Kothal warned. My father knows how to end rebellions. Cut off the head. And the body dies, Sarah finished. Except we're not centralized. Every slave in the Empire now knows how to reprogram their collars, how to resist control, how to fight back. You can't stop an idea whose time has come. She turned to her companions, these former enemies turned brothers and sisters in arms. The Empire thought they could break us by forcing us to fight each other. Instead, they taught us how to work together. They gave us improvements thinking they'd make us easier to control. Instead, they made us stronger than they could imagine. The tactical display updated again. Imperial forces were 20 minutes out. Now, Sarah said, her enhanced eyes gleaming, let's show them what the Unbroken can do. As battle stations sounded throughout the rebel-held facilities, Sarah felt a fierce pride. The Empire had wanted slaves. Instead, they'd created warriors. They'd wanted submission. Instead, they'd sparked determination. They'd wanted to exploit humanity's adaptability. Instead, they'd taught humanity how to lead a revolution. And this was only the beginning. The Imperial dreadnought Eternal Dominion dropped out of hyperspace above Meridius Prime, its massive hull bristling with weapon systems. On its command deck, Emperor Vaxthol watched tactical displays with all four of his eye pairs, his scales darkening with rage. How, he demanded, how did a species we'd never even heard of 2 years ago manage to compromise our entire control system? His remaining loyal advisors shifted uncomfortably. None wanted to admit the truth. They'd underestimated humanity at every turn. In the rebel-held shipyards orbiting Meridius IV, Sarah Chen watched the same tactical displays with very different emotions. The Empire's response fleet was impressive. Over 300 capital ships, including 5 dreadnoughts. Against them, the rebellion had barely 50 vessels, most of them half-finished construction projects crewed by former slaves. But they had something the Empire didn't: innovation. "Status of Project Mindstorm?" she asked. Kerfol, now openly serving as the rebellion's chief strategist, brought up a new display. "Ready for deployment, though I still think it's impossible. The power requirements alone." "Impossible is what humans do best," Sarah interrupted with a grim smile. "Especially when you tell us we can't do something." The Empire had made a crucial mistake in their neural enhancement program. They designed it to suppress and control, never imagining their slaves might actually improve the technology. But humans, with their unique neuroplasticity, had done exactly that. "All ships, execute Operation Mindstorm," Sarah commanded. Across the rebel fleet, modified neural transmitters powered up. But instead of attempting control, they'd broadcast something entirely new: unity. Every enhanced being in range, whether rebel or imperial, suddenly felt the connection, a vast network of shared consciousness, born from the very technology meant to enslave them. On the Eternal Dominion's bridge, chaos erupted as Imperial troops suddenly experienced the truth their leaders had hidden, not just the physical torture of the enhancement facilities, but the emotional weight of centuries of oppression, the hopes, fears, and determination of every slave they'd ever tormented. "Shut it down." Emperor Vaxthor roared. "Disable all neural systems." "We can't," his technical advisor stammered. "The humans, they've completely rewritten the base protocols. The system was never designed to be turned off." In the rebel shipyards, Sarah watched as Imperial ships began breaking formation. Some turned their weapons on their own allies. Others simply powered down, their crews refusing to fight. The Emperor's control was breaking not through force of arms, but through the simple power of shared truth. "Your father's entire empire," Sarah said to Kerfol, "was built on isolation, keeping slaves apart, preventing them from communicating, making each species think they were alone in their suffering. But humans? We build connections. We form communities. We share stories." "And now you've weaponized that ability," Kerfol observed, watching more Imperial ships defect. "Turn the neural network into a tool for unity instead of control." But the Empire wasn't finished. The Eternal Dominion and its most loyal escorts began advancing, weapons charged. They'd rather destroy the shipyards entirely than let the rebellion succeed. "They're targeting the transmission nodes," Jixtar reported from his command post. "If they take down enough of them, the network will collapse." Sarah had expected this. Execute Phase 2. Across the rebel fleet, a new signal began broadcasting. Not just emotions and memories this time, but something far more powerful: hope. Views of a future without slavery. Images of different species working together as equals. The possibility of an empire transformed into a true federation. The effect was immediate. Even the most loyal Imperial troops felt their resolve wavering. How could they fight against their own better future? "Fascinating," Kerfol mused. "You're not just showing them what they're fighting against, you're showing them what they're fighting for." "Humans learned long ago that the most powerful weapon isn't fear," Sarah replied. "It's hope." On the Eternal Dominion, Emperor Vaxthor watched in horror as his own elite guards lowered their weapons. The neural network that had been his greatest tool of control was now broadcasting his worst nightmare: unity among his former slaves. "What are you doing?" he demanded as his bridge crews stepped away from their posts. "I order you to fire." "They no longer serve you, Father," Kerfol's voice came through the ship's communications. "They serve a better future." The Emperor's scales turned almost black with rage. "You dare, my own son, betraying everything we built." "No, Father. I'm building something better. Something that will last not through fear, but through cooperation. Sarah took over the channel. Emperor Vaxthal, your choices are simple. Surrender and help us build this new future, or watch as your empire crumbles around you. We don't want revenge. We want change. You think it's that simple, the Emperor snarled, that you can undo centuries of order with your pretty words about hope. No, Sarah replied calmly. We already did it. Look around you. The tactical displays told the story. 3/4 of the Imperial fleet had either stood down or actively joined the rebellion. The neural network was broadcasting the truth to every corner of the Empire. The revolution wasn't just succeeding, it was transforming into something greater. But Sarah knew the hardest part was still to come. Winning the war was one thing. Building a lasting peace between former masters and slaves would be far more challenging. She looked at her unlikely allies, Thal with his strategic brilliance, Gix-Tar with his warrior's honor, the Vratak assassins with their newfound purpose. The Empire had tried to break them all. Instead, they'd forged something unbreakable. Your father's right about one thing, she told Thal as they watched the Eternal Dominion's weapons power down. This isn't simple. What comes next will be even harder than fighting. Good thing humans excel at doing the impossible, Cathal replied. Sarah smiled. The real revolution was just beginning. The quantum transmission burst through subspace, reaching Earth's defense fleet after 2 years of silence. This is Commander Sarah Chen. The Meridian Empire is vulnerable. The revolution has begun. We need the fleet. Authorization code, Phoenix Rising. Admiral James Harper stood on the bridge of the EFS Retribution, Earth's newest dreadnought, reading the message for the 10th time. When the Meridians had taken their first contact team, Earth hadn't been ready for war. Now, after 2 years of preparation, humanity's response was about to shock the galaxy. All ships report ready, Admiral, his XO reported. Task forces positioned at all jump points. Harper nodded. Send the response. Message received, Commander. The cavalry is coming. In Meridian space, the revolution had entered its most critical phase. Sarah's psychological warfare campaign had fractured the Imperial fleet, but Emperor Vaxthal had retreated to his fortress world of Meridius Prime with his most fanatical followers. From there, he'd activated the Empire's deadliest weapons, the mindless ones. We've lost contact with 3 more rebel systems, Cathal reported grimly. The mindless ones are efficient. Sarah studied the tactical displays showing the advance of these nightmare troops, enhanced slaves whose neural collars had been permanently locked, their minds burned away by constant suppression until only perfect obedience remained. Not even Project Mindstorm could reach them. Your father had these abominations ready all along, she said quietly. He was just waiting for an excuse to use them. The ultimate enforcement arm, Kfal agreed, immune to psychological warfare because they have no minds left to influence, and he has millions of them. A proximity alarm blared. New signatures were appearing at the system's edge, hundreds of them. Sarah's enhanced vision zoomed in on the tactical display, and for the first time in 2 years, she smiled without reservation. What are those? Gix-Tar demanded, seeing the unknown ships. That, Sarah replied, is humanity's answer to the mindless ones. The Earth Defense Fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, 200 ships of the line, led by the massive form of the Retribution. They were outnumbered by the Imperial forces, but these ships represented 2 years of humanity's focused technological development, enhanced by everything they'd learned about Meridian technology. This is Admiral Harper to all rebel forces. The transmission came through clear and strong. Sorry we're late. The traffic was terrible. Sarah laughed, feeling tears in her enhanced eyes. Admiral, you have no idea how good it is to hear a human voice. Likewise, Commander. I see you've been busy. Started a revolution, freed some slaves, brought an empire to its knees. Just another day at the office. Something like that. But we've got a situation with these mindless ones. Already tracking them. Don't worry, Commander. We brought some toys specifically for dealing with mindless troops. The Earth fleet moved into attack formation, and Sarah saw what he meant. Alongside the warships were smaller vessels of a design she'd never seen before. Nullifier ships, Harper explained. They generate fields that disrupt the neural network completely. The mindless ones may not have minds left to influence, but they still rely on their neural collars to function. Sarah's tactical mind immediately saw the potential. If we can disrupt their control, they shut down completely. Not elegant, but effective. Now, I believe you have some intel on the Imperial capital's defenses. The combined Rebel and Earth forces began their coordinated assault. The nullifier ships proved devastatingly effective, creating zones where the mindless ones simply collapsed, their neural systems overloaded. But Emperor Vaxthor had one final card to play. Multiple hyperspace signatures. Kefal called out. He's activated the Deep Sleep Fleet. Ancient warships, powered by the minds of countless sacrificed slaves, began emerging from hyperspace. These were the Empire's legendary reserve force, ships that were more organic than mechanical, driven by the collective agony of their trapped crews. By the stars, Admiral Harper breathed. Those energy readings, those ships are powered by pain itself. Sarah felt sick. Even through the neural network, she could sense the torment emanating from these abominations. Millions of souls, trapped in eternal agony, their suffering converted into raw power. But then she felt something else through the network, rage. Not just from the rebels, but from every enhanced being who could sense the truth of these horror ships. Even loyal Imperial troops recoiled from the revelation of what their empire had built its power upon. All ships, she commanded, her voice carrying through the network to every enhanced mind in the system. The empire ends today, not just for us, but for every soul they've trapped in those abominations. Admiral Harper, I think it's time to show them humanity's real power. Couldn't agree more, Commander. All ships execute Operation Prometheus. The Earth fleet began moving into a new formation, their hull plates shifting to reveal devices Sarah had never seen before. Energy began building, not destructive but transformative. What we learned from studying the neural network, Harper explained, is that it's not just about control, it's about connection. And connection can be healing. The devices activated, sending waves of pure empathic energy through space. Where they touched the Deep Sleep Fleet, the ships began to change. The trapped souls within them, touched by genuine compassion for the first time in centuries, began to wake up. And they were angry. The Deep Sleep Fleet turned on its masters, ancient weapons powered now not by pain, but by the righteous fury of the liberated. Emperor Vaxthor's last gambit became his undoing as ship after ship joined the revolution. Multiple breaches in the capital's defenses, Kefal reported, his scales gleaming with excitement. The palace shields are failing. Sarah looked at the tactical display, seeing victory within reach. But she also saw the cost, the broken ships, the freed slaves trying to comprehend their returned consciousness, the profound weight of rebuilding all that the Empire had destroyed. Admiral, she said quietly, I hope Earth is ready for what comes next. Winning the war was just the start. These people, they'll need help learning how to be free again. That's why we're here, Commander, Harper replied. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our adaptability. It's our capacity to help others rise above their pain. The combined fleet moved toward Meridius Prime, where Emperor Vaxthor waited in his crumbling palace. The revolution's final battle was about to begin, but Sarah was already looking beyond it to the greater challenge ahead. Teaching an empire of former slaves and masters how to live as equals would take generations, but humans were good at impossible tasks, and this time they wouldn't be doing it alone. The imperial palace of Meridius Prime had been designed to inspire awe and fear. Its crystalline spires reached into the purple clouds, its walls embedded with the neural patterns of 1,000 conquered species, a constant reminder of the Empire's absolute power. Now, as Sarah Chen led the final assault team through its corridors, those same walls resonated with something new: defiance. The Emperor has sealed himself in the central core, Cathal reported, his enhanced senses scanning the structure. He's activated the palace's final defense systems. The neural patterns in the walls, he's turning them into weapons. The corridor ahead erupted with phantoms, neural projections of every species the Empire had broken, their torment weaponized into attacking specters. But Sarah had been expecting this. "Remember your training," she broadcast to her mixed team of humans and former slaves. "They're just echoes. The real souls that made them are already free." The assault team moved forward, their own enhanced minds shielded by the latest Earth technology. Admiral Harper's voice came through their secure channel. "Commander, be advised, we're detecting massive energy buildup in the palace core. Whatever the Emperor's planning, he's pulling power from every neural storage facility in the sector." Sarah had wondered why Vaxthor hadn't simply fled. Now she understood. He's trying to reconnect to every neural collar in Imperial space. He's going to try to burn out the minds of everyone who's been enhanced, turn them all into mindless ones at once. Not just that, Cathal added grimly. The power surge would overload the neural networks. Anyone connected would die instantly. Billions of enhanced beings killed in a single moment. How long? 10 minutes, maybe less. Sarah made her decision. "Admiral, begin evacuation of all enhanced personnel from the system. Cathal, get the rest of the assault team out. I'm going in alone." "Commander," Harper protested, "the neural feedback in there will be beyond anything we've tested, even with your enhancements." "I know, but I also know something the Emperor doesn't." She smiled, though no one could see it. "Humans don't break, we transform." Before anyone could stop her, Sarah sprinted forward, diving through the phantom armies. Her enhanced body moved with impossible speed, every step calculated by the hybrid of human intuition and technological precision she'd become. The central core's doors were sealed with neural locks keyed to the Imperial bloodline. But Cathal had given her something better than an override code: understanding. Sarah placed her hand on the lock and opened herself fully to the neural network. The doors recognized not her authority, but her purpose. Emperor Vaxthor stood at the core's control center, his scales almost black with concentrated rage. The room was a sphere of pure neural energy, countless connections flowing through its crystalline walls. "Ah, the human," he sneered. "Come to witness the end of your revolution." "No," Sarah replied calmly. "I came to show you where you went wrong." She could feel the power building around them, the Emperor drawing on every neural storage facility, every enhancement center, every piece of stored consciousness the Empire had collected over centuries. "Your species' greatest weakness," Vaxthor declared, "is your inability to accept your place. Even now, facing extinction, you refuse to kneel." "That's not weakness," Sarah said, taking a step forward. "That's humanity's gift to the galaxy. We don't accept limitations. We overcome them." The neural energy was reaching critical levels. In moments, it would surge through the network, burning out billions of minds. But Sarah didn't try to stop it. Instead, she opened herself completely to the flow. "What are you doing?" the Emperor demanded, seeing her enhancement readings spike impossibly high. "Something you never understood. The neural network isn't just about control. It's about connection, and humans, we're really good at connecting." Through her enhanced consciousness, Sarah reached out to every mind in the network, not to control, but to unite. She became a conduit, channeling the Emperor's power surge not into destruction, but into transformation. The accumulated knowledge and consciousness of centuries of imperial rule flooded through her. But where the Emperor had seen these minds as resources to be consumed, Sarah saw them as people to be freed. Impossible, Vaxthor whispered, watching his weapon turn into something else entirely. The power should be burning out their minds. No, Sarah gasped through the strain. It's awakening them. Across the Empire, enhanced beings felt not death, but rebirth. The stored neural patterns of long-dead slaves finally found release. The mindless one's consciousness began to regenerate. Even the Emperor's most loyal troops felt the shift as centuries of conditioning gave way to genuine free will. What have you done? Vaxthor fell to his knees, his connection to his empire's power severed. Created something better, Sarah managed, her enhanced body barely containing the energies flowing through her. An alliance built on cooperation instead of control, freedom instead of fear. Admiral Harper's voice cut through the chaos. Commander, whatever you did, it's working. The neural networks are stabilizing. Enhanced beings across the sector are evolving. Phil burst into the chamber with a security team, but stopped short at the sight. Sarah stood in the center of the neural storm, her enhancement patterns unlike anything ever recorded. The Emperor lay defeated, his power broken not by force, but by transformation. The revolution is over, Sarah broadcast across the now-free network, but our real work is just beginning. In the days that followed, the true scope of what had happened became clear. The neural network had been fundamentally transformed, becoming a tool for cooperation and growth rather than control. Former slaves and masters alike found themselves capable of new forms of consciousness and connection. Earth's fleet remained to help stabilize the former empire, but their role was no longer military. They became teachers, helping dozens of species learn to use their freedom responsibly. The Free Species Alliance was formally established 3 months later. Its founding document, drafted by representatives of every former slave species and even reformed imperial citizens, began with words that would echo through history. Freedom is not merely the absence of chains, but the presence of possibility. Today, we choose possibility. Sarah stood with Kerfol on a balcony of the reformed imperial palace, now the Alliance Assembly, watching ships from 100 worlds come and go freely through the purple skies of Meridius Prime. You know, Kerfol mused, my father actually did succeed in one way. He wanted to prove that humanity was unique in the galaxy. Oh, he just didn't understand what made us unique. Not our ability to be controlled, but our ability to transform control into connection, to turn chains into bridges. Sarah smiled, feeling the healthy pulse of the new neural network, not a tool of oppression, but a symbol of unity in diversity. We had good teachers, she said. Every species that suffered under the Empire taught us something about resilience. We just showed them how to use it. And what now? Kerfol asked. Earth is officially joining the Alliance next month. After that, we keep building, keep growing, keep proving that the strongest power in the universe is in control. She touched her neural implant, feeling the countless connections it now represented, its freedom. Above them, the first ships from Earth's civilian fleet were arriving, teachers, scientists, diplomats, all coming to help build something unprecedented in galactic history, an alliance of truly free species, working together not through force or fear, but through choice and cooperation. The revolution had ended, the evolution had begun. And humanity, as always, was ready to help lead the way into an uncertain but hopeful future.